We bring in the studio this morning one of the gay rights activists, Mr. Should I call you Mr? Pepe Julian Onzima. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Why are you gay?
But why are you gay? More importantly, I'm not going to be going over that topic, but in this video, we're going to be talking about what does it mean to be gay? What does it mean to accept homosexuality for society? Better yet, as a society, even should we? In this video, we will be spreading love, nothing but pure love. I am a peaceful man, and I would not want to spread any kind of hate of any kind. You, with the hate, get out of here. This video is not for you. If you're hate-filled, It's with this in mind that I ask you to hear a man out, open your heart, your mind's eye, your pineal gland, perhaps even your root chakra as we explore this question which I have dubbed the gay question. What does it mean to be gay? Well, this may not seem like it warrants debate, but a good standing definition is necessary to understand what exactly is meant when people say gay. And to do that, we must understand and define homosexuality and the homosexual action. But what is the homosexual action? Sodomy. Sodomy is the act of sticking the male's sexual organ into the anus of another person. For simplicity's sake, we will include in this definition of sodomy other sexual acts which occurred between two members of the same sex, including molestation, mutual masturbation, fellatio, etc. These actions may occur for different reasons such as dominance, ritual, sexual gratification, or, for homosexuals, a disorder of the sexual instinct towards romantic love, which will be referred to here in simplicity as eros disorder. At its core, sodomy is the basic foundation of homosexuality. Without sodomy, homosexuality does not exist. This is not to say that sodomy is what modern society considers homosexuality. For many forms of sodomy exist that would not cause us to consider the actors as homosexual. But it is to say that homosexuality is sodomy. One cannot imagine a gay man apart from the sexual acts that he has or that he desires to have. To be clear, I'm not saying here that every time I imagine a gay guy, I imagine him having sex. But what I am saying is, let me give an example. For instance, some might argue homosexuality is first and foremost about love. But this is not the case because while two men may love each other, this love isn't considered homosexual until sodomy or sexual acts between them occurs. Two soldiers on the battlefield, two brothers, two male best friends, they may all have love for one another, but they're not considered homosexual until sodomy or acts that attempt to stimulate the sexual organs of the other for the purpose of mutual pleasure has occurred. I'm not gay for loving my bro, but if I try to love my bro, then it starts getting gay. In a similar manner, a man in prison may rape another man. Sexual acts such as pedestry may be committed between a teacher and his pupil, and aberrant religious rituals may include sodomy as a part of their whole act. But while these have sodomy, these would not be considered forms of homosexuality. It would not result in us considering all the actors as homosexuals. Therefore, from this, we can derive that while not all sodomy is homosexual, the definitive homosexual act is sodomy. From this, we can begin to define homosexuality. Homosexuality. If homosexuals are not those forms of sodomy which exist for dominance or ritual, then by definitions given above, homosexuality would be defined as sodomy which occurs for consensual, to denote the lack of dominance, sexual gratification, or in service to what we will call eros disorder. From this, we can define two major forms of homosexuality. The first, eros disorder homosexuality, or shorthand EDH, which is defined as consensual sexual relationships between two adults of the same sex that is primarily romantic in nature. Usually it's trying to mirror sex between a man and a woman in a stable relationship or marriage. Think of the G-Walks living together in New York City. The next would be sexual gratification homosexuality, which is SGH. This is defined as a consensual sexual relationship between two same-sex adults that's primarily sexual in nature. There's not really a romantic aspect. The heterosexual equivalent of this would be one night stands or Tinder, and the gay equivalent would be, I guess, wine night stands and Grinder. I don't know. For this text, we will discuss Eros disorder, homosexuality, or EDH, and we will explain where we derived the name. Eros is the Greek god of sexual love and desire, and while not always associated with sexual love in the ancient world, it is a good enough symbol to make our point. It stands for the internal sexual drive. In modern times, we might call this the horny factor. The horny factor can be aimed at anything. Unfortunately, hours online have taught me it could truly be aimed at anything. But as stated in this paper, we're only discussing the horny factor being directed towards people who share the same sexual organs. It should be understood that Eros as a force is not necessarily positive. Eros can also drive a man to take another man in prison, if you get what I'm saying. In order to explain this, it's better to watch the following clip from the YouTube channel Leather Apron Club. He does a much better job explaining this than I will here.
When discussing Greek homosexuality, you may imagine the most important deity to be the goddess of love, Aphrodite. But it would actually be more appropriate to discuss it in terms of the god Eros, the god of desire, since homosexuality was often viewed as an unnatural proclivity. And there are several misconceptions about Eros that we must first clean up. To begin, although his Roman counterpart is Cupid, and we tend therefore to imagine him as a harmless cherub spreading romantic love, the truth was very different. Eros, as a feeling that people could have, is not really love at all. Take for example in the Iliad, where soldiers eating are described as, quote, satisfying their eros for food. Eros would rather best be described as a passion, and a violent one at that, which if left unchecked, could lead people to the worst forms of self-destruction. It was a feeling which would make people abandon their reason and invite in the ever-looming chaos of nature into the well-ordered polis. It could be directed towards a person, of course, but also to fame, wealth, or any object. Also removing Eros from our cherubesque image of him is his parentage, being born of Aphrodite and the god of war Ares, as well as the fact that he was said to watch over battlefields and actually provided warriors their frenzied mindset. Remember too that he literally shoots people with arrows, often regarded as the weapon of a coward who is unwilling to fight up close. And arrows are the perfect metaphor for the idea that they were trying to get across, since a barbed arrowhead lodged in someone's flesh could not be pulled out, and would therefore fester and likely ultimately kill the person, the same as an uncontrolled passion could. And while it's popularly known that Eros shoots golden arrows of desire which cause people to fall in love, it's usually forgotten that he has another type of arrow with lead tips that causes repulsion. Often he would shoot two would-be lovers with these opposite arrows, causing intense emotional suffering for both. There are countless examples from Greek literature which display their understanding of Eros as an irrational force of destruction. Take the play The Bacchae, in which Thebes becomes ruled by the forces of Eros, where all desire is allowed to be satisfied. That play ends with the destruction of Thebes by fire. Or Jason and the Argonauts, where Medea is compelled by Eros to fall in love with Jason and help him steal the golden fleece from her father's possession. While we may view this as romantic, I'll remind you that Medea, in her blind love, ends up betraying and helping to kill her brother. And when she attempts to flee with Jason on his boat, she dismembers the body of her child and throws it in the ocean, in an attempt to slow down her pursuing father, who feels compelled to gather the body parts of his grandchild so that he may receive a proper burial. Needless to say, this would not have been viewed as a romantic story by the Greeks, but as a cautionary tale of how uncontrolled Eros can destroy a family. Ultimately, Eros was far more feared than he was loved. He was still understood to be necessary, as passion is the driving force behind much of human action, but extremely dangerous if uncontrolled, a view explained well in Plato's Phaedrus, which we will discuss later. Eros is fire, which we need for life but will also burn our house down. Eros is the wild horse pulling our chariot, whose energies the driver must harness, and he, like all gods, must be feared.
Disorder. Why choose the word disorder? After all, if it's just the Eros drive being directed at a different thing than what society considers normal, wouldn't that just be a difference of preference? For instance, in the words of the dear leader,
And I could come down and start kissing everybody. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. Not with a lot of enjoyment, but that's okay.
or more succinctly, as he said it in another place,
Are you a homosexual, Clay?
I am. Yes, Mr. Trump, I am.
No, is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But he
Marcus, did
bodily-
you know that Clay was gay?
Yes, I did. When we first
Did everybody know this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
He let
Because
people
I didn't know
in
it.
the beginning.
So you don't find Olive very attractive then?
No, I mean,
and
she's
you
a
don't find
beautiful woman.
Felicia very attractive?
They're beautiful women, but they're not my thing.
All right. That's why they have menus in restaurants, you know? I like steak, somebody else likes spaghetti. That's why they have menus in restaurants. It's a great...
Currently, I think the views he's pushing here are the majority opinion and have been for a while. But I do believe this majority opinion deserves to be challenged, and in order to challenge it, I'm going to propose a parallel argument. And to propose that parallel argument, we will be looking at the hunger drive. Consider the hunger drive. In the hunger drive, people can have a preference for vanilla or chocolate ice cream. Sounds easy enough, right? Now imagine you went on a date at a restaurant, and the person across from you ordered a chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla, and you liked vanilla. This is no reason to break up or to make a stink over. This doesn't say anything is fundamentally wrong with the other person. Now what if they ordered pickled flavored ice cream, right? Okay, it's kind of weird, but a pickle is still technically food. I might laugh at it, start a conversation, but, you know, there's a little question there. I'd question their relationship a bit, but I wouldn't really break up or yuck their yum as modern people say. Now, what if the ice cream was flavored like drywall? Okay. Interesting. We're getting to a breaking point. What if they ordered just straight drywall? We're now leaning into an area where this says something fundamentally about the person's mental state. Now, what if they ordered poop? Suddenly we have a problem. But why? What is the difference between the poop and the chocolate ice cream? Now, of course, we all intuitively see a difference. One is disgusting and the other one is chocolate ice cream. However, in order to make any serious points on the matter, we have to analyze this philosophically. In order to understand it philosophically, we must dive into the hunger drive. Namely, what does hunger exist for in the human body? Hunger exists for the digestive system, and the digestive system exists for nutrition. When eating chocolate ice cream, it's understood that this is still food proper. It still does the body good and allows the digestive system to fulfill its purpose of creating energy for the body. Now, as for poop, it turns the digestive system against itself. This is not a case of simply having different preferences or the reason they make menus at restaurants. If your loved one is eating poop, please stop them. I don't want to yuck your yum, but it's not good for people. Okay, you're following? Good. Let's take a break to breathe. I assume we're all in agreement. Poop's bad, ice cream's good. I need you, though, to stay tolerant. After all, we're starting to head into dark waters, and I don't want to see anyone drowning. As I stated, the purpose of this paper is love and acceptance. I look forward to a future where people aren't judged for their opinions or their likes or dislikes or the color of their skin, their creed, their nationality, the flag they fly, for instance, or any other thing, you know? In the words of Gandhi, an eye for an eye only makes the world blind, and in the words of Martin Luther King, we should judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Are you feeling sufficiently enlightened yet, listening to me? Has the timbre of my voice caused your mind like a flower to blossom, like a cherry tree in spring? Then let us consider the mirror of this. Let us replace the hunger drive with the eros drive. What does the eros drive exist for? Eros drive exists for sex, and sex exists for reproduction and connection. Heterosexual sex, properly ordered, is designed to result in reproduction. Now, what if some white man likes a black girl, right? This is a difference of menu. Cool, diversity, right? This is what menus are made of. What if an Asian girl likes white guys? Cool, you know, Harvard should probably do a study about this. However, when a man likes a man, it looks like something fundamentally different is happening. What would that entail? It would definitionally entail sodomy when we're talking about liking in this manner, or it would describe some other form of sexual act. For those of you who describe a gay relationship where there is no stimulation of the sexual organs or movement of the flesh designed to awake those organs, and you say that a gay relationship can exist without there being any drive towards gay sex or any gay sex happening to begin with, then I simply must disagree, because if I love my friend but make no movement and retain no desire to awake his sexual passions, then I'm not gay. This is just called being a friend. And this is why we use the word disordered. Not because we consider you gays out there glub glub subtards, although some of you are, but instead because your desires are against the natural order and purpose of your organs. Sodomy, or many sexual acts that are intrinsically close to reproduction, are to the sexual drive what pica is to the hunger drive. Pica is a disorder where the individual feels the need or retains the desire to eat things that are simply not good for the digestive tract. They'll eat hair, paper, feces, etc. No one would argue pica is not disordered. So if we're being philosophical and pica is against the digestive system, and that's why we consider it disordered, why do people argue homosexuality is not inherently disordered, as in against the order of the sexual organs? Now, some of you might argue hearing that it's because of the philosophical ends of homosexuality. The negatives of pica are obvious. Someone eats poop, they get sick. But with homosexuality, no one gets hurt. But is this true? Well, if homosexuality was just like any other normal act like basketball or eating McDonald's, if that's the case, then we should assume there are no negative things associated with homosexuality. And surely, when I decided to look into this video, I didn't find any negative effects associated with homosexuality. Homosexuals have significantly higher rates of being molested. Homosexuals consume significantly more pornography than their heterosexual peers. Homosexuals retain a significantly higher amount of sexual partners compared to their heterosexual counterparts, and the difference is actually staggering. Homosexuals are actually much more likely to molest children. Now, when you first hear this, you're probably just not going to believe it, because most stats will say, well, homosexuals only make up 20% of child molesters, right? However, when you look at that stat, it's not a clear stat, because we're not counting by just how many are doing the thing. We want to know per capita who's doing the thing, right? And the key is that if homosexual men only make up like 2 to 3% of the society, which they do, and if they are making up 20% of all child molesters, which they do, then that would mean that 3% of the society is responsible for over 20% of all the child molestations, which shows that they have a significantly higher rate of molesting. Some studies even saying they're 40 times more likely of being a molester. Comorbidity with depression. I don't know if you know a lot of gay people, but the majority of them tend to have depression or some other disorder. This is backed by all of the statistics. And I decided for this paper to look into studies related to Iceland, because Iceland is one of the most progressive countries and the most accepting of homosexuals. And yet, even in this country, they retain extremely high levels of depression, which makes one wonder, is this really due to a lack of social acceptance, or perhaps is there something else going on here? Comorbidity with suicide. Homosexuals have higher rates of suicide than their heterosexual peers, significantly higher rates. Intestinal parasites. Homosexual men have extremely higher amounts of intestinal parasites compared to their heterosexual peers. This should not be shocking, considering the amount of average partners that the heterosexual man has compared to the homosexual man, and when you consider that that's where the poop goes. Domestic violence. Lesbians have some of the highest rates of domestic violence of all relationship types. Surprisingly, gay men get a pass here. They actually have some of the lowest rates, W for men. Way to go, guys, let's shoot for 40 type energy here. Gay adoption. This one's contentious, but, if you imagine that gay couples are just the same as straight couples, that there's no difference besides a preference, then you would imagine that they would be able to raise children the same way, and maybe we can do something about the big adoption problem and orphan problem and abandoned children problem in the States. Surely this wouldn't result in the harming of any children. You see cases like this. This should remind you that every child is actually entitled to a mother and a father. And finally, we get to surrogacy. Surrogacy is gross, and I just want to give it an honorable mention here. But the idea of buying a child from the mother, pre-ordering a child like it's a video game off of a shelf, then dragging that child away from the mother before they've even been able to breastfeed the first time, dragging them away as soon as out of the womb so that they could lay skin to skin with a man instead of the mother that held them for 9 months. That is child abuse, and this needs to be spoken about a lot more, but this video is not on surrogacy, so we're not going to get into that. Now, of course, with all of these, however, it is a chicken and the egg situation. For many of these, we don't know if the negative thing is due to homosexuality or if homosexuality is due to the negative thing. However, if we are to be intellectually honest, we cannot stick our heads in the sand, but must instead focus on these fundamental issues and be honest about it. And finally, we should legislate about it. Now, why legislate? It's because social conditioning is a big factor in if someone ends up being homosexual. To be clear, biology plays a role, but everything we know about science shows that it's not just biology. You aren't born gay, but there's much more factors that go into it. Some people will try to highlight prenatal testosterone, but prenatal testosterone does not tell the whole story. Consider the following 2 clips.
From what I've seen, I'm leaning towards that there's a strong possibility that the environment plays a significant role. Yes, there are differences from homosexuals and heterosexuals on a biological level, but I do also believe that there's a combination of nature and nurture in this. We can observe this in other animals such as sparrows. Did you know that you can make sparrows gay? You don't have to modify them on a genetic level at all. They aren't biologically distinct in any way. All you have to do is simply have a young male sparrow, and you remove the mother sparrow from the nest, and the male sparrow will imprint on its father instead. And as a result, that male sparrow will only mate with other male sparrows. I mean, again, let's look at other animals such as sheep. If you raise a male sheep in a flock of goats, it will only mate with female goats. That isn't changing your sexuality entirely, yet it is able to modify it. It's able to change it so that that male sheep will no longer mate with female sheep. And you can also do the same thing with female sheep, except as a result, they'll actually mate with both male goats and male sheep. Those are 2 solid examples of how sexuality can be changed in the animal kingdom. You'll hear the horror stories or good positive stories, but what does the science say about this? Well, there was an analysis done of 125 men that were in SOCE, which is Sexual Orientation Change Efforts. That includes psychotherapy. Don't worry, there aren't any electric chairs or anything like that. And the study showed many things. For a lot of them, the same-sex attraction went down from their initial 5.7 reporting to a 4.1 on the kidney scale, which basically means that they were asked to rate their same-sex attraction and they rated it a 5.7. And then afterward, they rated it a 4.1. This also includes a reduction in same-sex activity at a 2.4 to a 1.5. This also included at least partial reduction of unwanted same sexuality in as low as 45% of the participants to upwards of 69%, which is pretty good. A full reduction of attraction was somewhat low at 14%, but 26% for full-on sexual behavior. Interestingly, 4 to 10% of participants experienced increased same-sex orientation after SOCE. But here's what we've been waiting for. What about the negative effects? The horror stories we've heard about. From 0.8% to 4.8% of participants reported a marked of severe negative psychological change following it, but 12.1 to 61.3 reported marked or severe positive change. Net change was significantly positive for all problem domains. Conclusion: SOCE was perceived as effective and safe therapeutic practice by this sample of participants. They also...
Now, if all of the aforementioned negative correlations are attached to homosexuality, and if social influence increases homosexuality to such a drastic degree, then shouldn't something happen to protect the kids instead of these endless parades and pressuring kids to be gay? And for those of you who are saying no one's pressured to be gay, once again, I encourage you to watch the following 2 videos.
People that aren't like serial killers like Ted Bundy.
Does your mom say you have to be LGBT?
No.
I can choose what I want to be, but
Hold on. Go ahead, Lex. Go ahead. Keep talking. Say what you're saying.
My mom doesn't matter if if I am gay or lesbian or any of that. She doesn't care. All she cares about is that I'm a part of it. And if I'm not a part of it, she'll try to convince me to join it. Cause
What are you saying right now?
Facts.
That I would convince you to join what?
The LGBTQIA+ community.
Then the doors burst open. The king and queen walked through. There's our precious daughter. If they did not know what love meant, who would?
Remember learning how to walk?
No,
I remember learning how to walk, but it was with these shoes on. Friends and news. It turns out I'm not a narwhal. Of course you are.
And I never had specifically, like for myself, like a role model or someone to look up to at an early age to say it was okay to be gay. It was okay to be gay, to be a drag queen, to be, you know, whatever I wanted to be. So that's why I think it's important to be here today, to show the kids that, you know, there is someone that you can look up to and you can be who you want to be.
I think it's just important that he sees this as something that's normal, it's accepted, it's not anything to be ashamed of. And if I just keep taking him to events like this, it's just going to be a part of life.
Everybody say love.
Love.
Yay. Love.
So to end the video, please accept my final words on the topic. And remember, I just want you to hear me out and not judge me, but to show me the same patience you would show anyone else. This is gross. It's gross. That's where the poop goes. Seriously, I feel like I'm in crazy town. This religious devotion people have towards homosexuality, it's like an obsession at best and a neuroticism at worst. One evidence of this is that if you ask the average person, hey, is straight sex gross? Most straight guys would shrug their shoulders and probably laugh a little bit about it. They go, yeah, even girls, right? And girls are not funny, frankly, let's be honest about that. But there's no neuroticism there. It's normal. You know, there's farting, there's smells, there's sweat, there's sounds. Let's be honest, even straight sex is a little gross, right? But if you asked a gay person the same question, or someone who has a devotion to this alphabet movement, and you said, hey, is gay sex gross? They'll just disown you. They'll treat you like you just said, hey, do you want to do the Holocaust again? That's how they'll treat you. They'll even claim you are. Like, the amount of people I've heard talking about gay genocide, like a Christian says, hey, I don't want to bake a cake for a gay business, and they say, hey, this is a gay genocide. It's insane. And they'll claim you hate them, you know. They'll claim you're inherently against their way of life. But why all this defensiveness? Like, these are the people they're saying this to are people who are rather supportive to the movement. So why the defensiveness? It's because even they inherently know it's not normal. It's putting the pee-pee where the poop is. It's not normal. Poop play is not normal. I will yuck your yum. Poop play, putting the pee-pee where the poop is not normal. And then putting it in your mouth afterward. Like, sometimes you gotta be vulgar and just talk about what these people are doing. It's gross, okay? Talk about vulgar things with vulgar words because it's vulgar. You should feel uncomfortable hearing it. Then society decides, well, let's make it legal, you know? Maybe we shouldn't kick down someone's door to catch them in the act and point a gun to their head, right? I'd agree we shouldn't do that, right? But that wasn't enough, you know? We made it legal and that wasn't enough. Next thing you know, they're saying, well, you actually need to affirm these people. You need to wave a pride flag. You need to support these parades. And if a parade comes down your street, you shouldn't say, I don't want that parade on your street. Or if someone scribbles a rainbow sidewalk in your neighborhood, you shouldn't say, hey, why do we have this? I don't want that. That's all hate-filled. You probably like a guy with a small mustache from the 20th century. But that's, once again, it's never enough for them, you know? You need to bake wedding cakes. Otherwise, we're going to drag you to the Supreme Court. You need to allow schools to teach your kids about gay sex. Achilles, from your ancient Greek myths that you love. We know you conservatives and right-wingers love your Rome and your Greece. No, Achilles needs to be gay. And George Washington, the founder of the country, he needs to be gay too, you know? Never mind he had a wife. He needs to be gay too. These people want you to endlessly cater to their group. And why? What is the reasoning behind it? What is so interesting about this group that they deserve to be catered to? It is that they put their pee-pees in poo-poo. Or did they let someone else put their pee-pee in their poo-poo? Alright? And don't forget the moving goalposts on this. Before you say, you're so behind the times. What is this guy, born 100 years ago? No, I'm born like 20 years ago, dude. Have you seen the leader of the Democratic Party in 2008 did not like gay marriage. Yet, society's changed faster with this social issue than any other. And let me show some evidence. In just a decade, we went from this.
What I believe is that marriage is between a man and a woman.
As far as why, what in your religious faith
calls you to be against gay marriage?
What I believe in my faith is that a man and a woman, when they get married, are performing something before God.
To this. Now, after seeing these clips, some of you are watching this video and you're going, based, you know? But others of you are probably offended. Even some of you more conservative-minded, you know, MAGA people, you put on your red hat and you go in front of people and you say, yeah, I actually love Dave Rubin and I love all these different people. But before the video is over, I want you to know that that's not what we're about here anymore, okay? Before this video is over, I'm sure many of you, especially Christians, are arguing, I may agree with you on a fundamental nature, but don't you think this video and your opinions are a little too harsh and not fair? Where's the part where you speak about loving these people and being patient? Where's the mercy? That's already been done. I don't include a section about love, tolerance, and mercy for a reason, because it's already been done. That's all you guys talk about in relation to this. No one ever talks about the reality that we are normalizing and teaching poop play, raising flags that celebrate poop play and aberrant sexual relationships, okay? And finally, one anecdote. This is personal from my life. I was once debating someone about a Catholic school in Canada. This Catholic school, it was in Ontario, Canada, and they put up pride flags. There was a video on Instagram of a bunch of people protesting against that, a bunch of the Catholics. But this person I was talking to, even though they themselves were Catholic, they did not protest against it. They thought it was completely okay. In fact, what they said was, but if that support can just help one kid, wouldn't it all be worth it? Yet, by that logic, the opposite should be true. If this kind of social engineering hurts just one kid, then shouldn't it be worth it to stop it? It's with this in mind that I clip the following video.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? When I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction, and I have massive scars across my chest. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be.
The point of this video is to give a philosophical understanding for why it's wrong. Knowing poop play and all of this aberrant behavior is wrong and against nature, this should be intuitive. It shouldn't require a video essay. I think I speak for everyone normal in society when I say I think we've had enough. That's it. The end.